33, I think we're at. Is that right, Alan? 33?
That's right.
So about done at this. And my name's Ted McBride. I'm a lawyer here in town. It is a beautiful Tuesday afternoon in Salt Lake City. Summer has finally arrived. The air-conditioned units are cranking, and the temperature is rising. I think it probably hit about 90 today, and it feels about that in the studio until you got the AC going here, Alan.
Yeah, it was hot.
It was hot. We've got a guest today. He is on his way here. I struggle pronouncing his last name. I struggle tremendously. But Mircea Divicean, the president and CEO of the Kostopoulos Dream Foundation, better known as Camp K, here in Salt Lake City. And anyone that's ever been up past Ruth's Diner in Emigration Canyon has gone by Camp K, and Camp K is a really special place, a unique camp that serves all people, but primarily people with disabilities. And they've got counselors from around the world working there this summer. They've got a concert series that they've got going. They've got a concert coming up on Saturday. I've got VIP tickets, perks of inviting him to my radio show. Brian Shoop, you heard of him? He'll be performing on Saturday night. You're going to come with us.
Okay.
So we're going to go up there. But we're going to learn about Camp K in just a little bit. But before that, I'm going to fill the air a little bit. I'm running short on ideas today, so I'm going to be struggling, pulling from KSL and some different news sources. But we've had some great shows lately. I didn't do any show last week. We did a replay of Alima Harrington at Utah Jazz and his work in the recovery industry, fighting drug and alcohol abuse here in Salt Lake City. Before that, a couple of weeks ago, I had Bill Bano, assistant coach of the Indiana Pacers, on talking about the same. And we also had Stuart Goffman, the creator of a new television show on A&E called Addiction Unplugged. And they just shot their final episode, I guess the finale, in Chicago, about a week and a half ago. And I know that our Attorney General, Sean Reyes, I'm never sure if I pronounce his name correct either.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Was instrumental in it, and I know that Stuart will be here in Salt Lake City next week to meet with the Utah Attorney General, and they're sort of honoring Utah and efforts being made here to deal with drug and alcohol abuse, the opioid crisis, and the plethora of issues that surround that problem. And Addiction Unplugged is an interesting program because it's focusing on not just great stories of recovery, but the communities that are helping people in recovery. And I know that there's a segment with the guy from My Pillow. What's his name? Mike Lindell.
Is it My Pillow or The Perfect Pillow?
Uh-oh, we're going to get a cross now. Stuart's not going to be happy with me. I thought it was My Pillow. But Mike Lindell, I think his name is, and he's in Minnesota, and he's got the pillow factory.
Right.
And he's being recognized for basically giving people a second chance, a second opportunity. He employs a lot of people that have less than perfect social track records, I'll call it. Because it's a real problem in today's world, with the prevalence of drug and alcohol addiction and the stigmatism that comes with it. You and I have spoken about that a number of times. But aside from just like a personal stigmatism that comes from it, there's a societal stigmatism that comes with it. The same with people with criminal records. And it's really hard under our existing systems to get a second chance.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that can be true for housing, for jobs, for a wide variety of things. And so I think that the world is awakening a bit to dealing with these issues of mental health and drug addiction, alcoholism, and helping people, not condemning people, empathizing with people, not judging people, and trying to provide resources to people to enable them to help take care of themselves and help contribute toward a better society. Speaking of a better society, Alan, I got to tell you, I love LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I think LinkedIn is a wonderful social media forum, and I go on LinkedIn for inspiration every day. I find inspiration, too, on Facebook. A lot of people posting positive things on Facebook. But on LinkedIn, I just see a real serious effort on behalf of people to help others. And a lot of my contacts for the show, I pull off of LinkedIn. And I've got a few coming up. We're going to have 2 shows this week. I've got coming on Thursday, an interesting man, a professor, Robert W. Turner, author of the book Not for Long, The Life and Career of the NFL Athlete. And anyone that's heard me before knows that I favor basketball over football. That's no secret.
No.
But I think that football's got a host of problems. Aside from the concussions, et cetera, there's some drug abuse and problems in football. But Robert W. Turner's a kid from New Jersey. He's no kid anymore. But that pursued a football career at James Madison University and went through the ranks, writes in his book about experiences in college, struggling academically, being shamed a little bit academically when he first got there. And he's really made the most of his life. He had a short stint in the Canadian Football League and I think in the National Football League, and now has a PhD in sociology. He's an author, a professor, and he's written quite a book about sort of the underbelly of professional football and the consequences that it can have on not only those that make it, but younger people even trying to make it to do that. And there is my guest. Still going to put him on hold. You found a place okay. But Robert's going to join me by telephone on Thursday, and I'm going to read from the jacket of his book. So give a little preview about what that's going to be about. Without guaranteed contracts, the majority of players are forced out of the league after a few seasons. Over 3/4 of retirees experience bankruptcy or financial ruin. 2/3 live with chronic pain, and too many find themselves on the wrong side of the law. Robert W. Turner II argues that the fall from grace of so many players is no accident. The NFL, he contends, powerfully determines their experiences in and out of the league. The labor agreement provides little job security and few health and retirement benefits, and the owners refuse to share power with the players, making change difficult. And the process of becoming an elite football player, from high school to college and through the pros, leaves athletes with few marketable skills and little preparation for their first Sunday off the field. So I'm very anxious to speak to him about that. And I think that as there's growing awareness with mental health, I'm going to talk about kids here in a minute, but I think professional athletes are probably a bit of a silent group of people that are may be suffering. Some of them may be suffering from some mental health problems, and I'm interested to hear from Robert about his insights. I know he's interviewed hundreds of players and coaches and people involved in what he calls the sports industrial complex that is football. And but I think that professional athletes, who are they to complain, right? You can run into that. But I think that being a professional athlete is got to be challenging in its own rights. And I see on LinkedIn more and more efforts on behalf of, I follow the NBA, so I see mostly NBA players, NBA people trying to help players transition to that next stage in life. After the final whistle blows, whenever that may be. For me, it was high school.
Right.
Right. Didn't make it any further than that. But great effort on behalf of therapists and the mental health industry to address, not only the stereotypical, I'll call it, or the person that suffers from mental disabilities, but even elite people. I know Oprah Winfrey has been very open about her struggles in life and others, but I think it's important that people like Robert Turner raise these issues for everyone, including professional athletes. Because you might think they've got the perfect life, and nobody has the perfect life. And I think that's part of what we're going to hear today from my distinguished guest, whose last name I can't pronounce. Will you help me again? Mircea.
Mircea Divicean.
Mircea Divicean just walked in. I don't know if I said that right, but I think that's the last time I'm going to say it today. And Mircea is the CEO and executive director of Camp K here in Salt Lake City. He is also special counsel is it to the State Department from the country of Romania. Is that right?
It is the official title of the position is called Honorary Consul. So, yes, that is correct. Working with the State Department and the Romanian government to build bridges and opportunities, whether they're economic, cultural, or educational, between the United States and Romania. And I'm located here in Utah, and certainly I work with Utah and the neighboring states on those opportunities. We've done incredible things just in a very short period of time. We hosted a delegation in April from Romania.
He's gonna be like Troy Rawlings, come and just flick him on and go. And I didn't mean to cut you off there. We're going to circle back to that, but I want to tell a little Romania. There's not too much about Romania in the news here on a regular basis.
So that is very, very true.
And I find Eastern Europe is just one of the most interesting places in the world.
Eastern Europe is, it's got all the countries in Eastern Europe, they have a very rich history. And unfortunately, they have not been enough in the news in the United States, and many people unfortunately don't even know where to put it on a map. It's sad, but it is what it is. But it's being discovered a little bit more recently, and that makes me very happy. Not just Romania, but all the countries in the Eastern Central Europe. They're absolutely beautiful countries with a rich culture and determination to turn their life around. What I like to say, from my perspective, since we're talking about why is it that Eastern Europe is not a whole lot in the news? In my personal opinion, it comes with the fact that communism, which was part of their unfortunate history for a while until 1989, when communism fell, it had a very deep impact on those countries. Meaning that they literally, one of my best friends in Romania, he's a very well-known economist. He's the chairman of the Romanian, he's the vice chair, the vice governor of the Romanian Central Bank. He says the difference between communism and capitalism it's very simply explained. Communism, is kind of like a zoo. You have beautiful walls, you got, veterinarians, doctors take care of people, everybody's got food, everybody's happy, protected, and then capitalism is like a jungle, right? Everybody, they got to take care of themselves, survive, put food on the table, and so on and so forth. So the injustice happened, obviously, with communism, being part of the history of those countries. But then in 1999, when capitalism finally came back to that part of the world, it happened rather I would say, very fast and direct and very hard. And when the walls came down, those people that lived in Eastern Europe, the Eastern Bloc, they did not get any pre-training on, hey, capitalism, communism, and all, it's over. Capitalism is coming back.
Business Org 101 up at the U.
So
we're going into a commercial break here, and
okay.
When we come back, we're going to learn more about Romania.
Perfect.
Be right back. Welcome back to Talk with Ted. My name is Ted McBride. This is Talk with Ted, a show about nothing, and I got that title from the old Seinfeld shows. I'm a big Seinfeld fan, and I used that title kind of sarcastically, I guess, because I've had some great guests on, law professors, police officers. I've interviewed a nun, And we've got a dignitary today and a real leader of our community, and we're talking about Romania. We're going to talk about the FBI, Camp K, all the work that you do. But I wanted to give a little bit of background about Romania first, and I'm going to lift you a little bit here from Wikipedia. I'm fascinated with World War II and World War I and World War II, and really the race to build the biggest gun from the industrial military complex, after the steam engine was invented. And of course, that race culminated with the invention and detonation of two nuclear bombs to end World War II. And thankfully, the world hasn't seen the use of a nuclear bomb since then, but we all live under that constant nuclear threat. Romania is interesting because after World War I, Romania's territory, I believe, grew a bit with the collapse of the Hungarian Empire. And when World War II started, Romania first took a position of neutrality, that they weren't going to get involved. And it was King Carol II. And then after Germany successfully invaded France and Paris and ran the British soldiers back to the island, there was tremendous unrest in Romania, and there was a coup and a dictatorship that actually supported the Nazis, supported Germany and the Axis. And Romania was assured some security after World War I by Great Britain and France, but then after the Germans started to defeat the Allies, Romania was looking for some security and turned to the Germans for that. And because they had some land that the Russians were interested in. And so the Romanians actually fought with the Germans and invaded Russia in 1942-43. They, I think, had a standing army of 600,000 or 700,000 men that were assisting in that effort. And then in 1943, there was a second coup in Romania. And the dictator, whose name I got to look up here, you could probably help me here, starts with an A. He was overthrown, and a new government came in under King, was it Michael? I believe King Michael I, Romania. And then at that point in time, they sided with the Allies. And so a real interesting history, and I think that's part of what I was saying in the first segment, that part of Europe, that Eastern Europe, is a really complex area with many different ethnicities, difficulty drawing boundaries and consolidating people. But there were people, Hungarians and Germans and Russians all within that territory. But the Romanians were actually on both sides in World War II. And when they, after the second coup and King Michael came in, it was actually a problem for some of the German soldiers because they were fighting with the Germans on the front lines, and then suddenly had a bit of a change of allegiance. And so I find that history of Romania particularly interesting. And they did pay some war reparations to Russia after the war, but they weren't considered, a full-blown ally of Germany and the Nazis because they did have that kind of change during it. Am I right about that?
Well, mostly
You
correct.
correct me. It's okay.
Mostly correct, but Romania, it was neutral till 1944 when they decided to fight against the Nazi and joined the, alliance. The Germans, obviously, Romania is very rich with oil fields, and the Germans obviously loved that. And, basically we were neutral all together. I mean, if you want to consider neutral, that you're supporting the Nazis because the Nazis had bases and, occupied Romania. but they didn't really fight with the Germans against other nations. But then 1944, with the change of the government, yes, they decided to turn against the Nazis and join the alliance, and they certainly helped and support all our troops come back with the Russians all the way to liberate all Europe. And Romania paid a dear price in that war, and actually
Caught right in the middle of it, weren't they?
right in the middle. And absolutely, I mean, yeah, but the sad part is, so Romania, you said that after World War One, gained some land. That land was always Romania before the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Romania, which used to be Dacia, for thousands of years before that, they were always in that part of the world, and that's the ethnicity of the people that live in that part of the world. And back 2,000 years ago, during the Emperor Trajan of Rome, Romania was conquered and became a Latin country when everything around Romania is Slavic. So Romania, 2,000 years ago, after 100 years of wars with the Roman Empire, was conquered and became a Roman province, when all the neighbors, all our neighbors are Slavic nations. So, and because of that, I would say Romanian, which is scientifically proven, is probably the closest language to Latin.
Really?
Because it preserved the best, not really having another influence around it. So Romania was even bigger than what it is today. But yes, you are correct. World War I, obviously, many tribes throughout history in Europe that conquered and plunder, and from the Ottoman Empire coming from the south and trying to conquer Romania. They never passed the Carpathians into Transylvania, where I'm originally from, but they certainly did the southern part and the eastern part of the country. And you got the Mongols coming from the east. You had the Austro-Hungarian Empire coming from the west. So a lot of history, a lot of movement into that part of the world. That's why there is quite a bit of diversity, quite a few languages and traditions, and so on and so forth. But then World War II came. Romania, after being neutral and supporting of sorts, a neutrality for the first part of the war, in 1944, they decided to side with the alliance and fight against the Nazis and pushed back, with Russia all the way through and free Europe.
And even with that, the Russians fought the Romanians even when they joined the war.
And then what happened right after the Second World War, Romania actually lost some land to Russia, which now it's known as Republic of Moldova. That is part of Romania. That was part of the Romania, but now it's an independent country. It's a small size, but that's on the east bench of Romania, neighboring Ukraine, and that was lost after the Second World War, that the Russians decided to assimilate part of their USSR, which was the United Russian Federation.
Right. What's the population of Romania today?
So population of Romania I would say even today, but even so, there's about over 20 million Romanians. However, how many Romanians live in Romania right now, I think that is very different since the revolution of 1999, when communism fell. There's been globalization happened very heavily in Eastern Europe, I would say. Most of the countries in Eastern Europe lost a lot of their population, whether they lost it to Western Europe or they lost it to U.S. or other parts of the world. It's estimated that 4 million Romanians live abroad right now.
4 million.
And most of them are in Europe. There's, over 500,000 Romanians in UK, over 1 million in Spain, over 1 million in Italy. So that's the concentration. And then the other ones are scattered. So over 4 million Romanians they're not living actively in Romania. since the revolution. And this is because of globalization. It is, people pursuing different opportunities and trying to learn and then certainly probably experience a new life in a new country.
And aside from the Romanians, what other groups live in Romania? Are there Russians there?
So the largest minority, I would say, in Romania would be the Hungarian population. It was estimated at 1 million people, but I think that number also dropped because I think many of them have dual citizenship. I think Hungary gave them dual citizenship. Many of them probably moved to Hungary or different parts of Europe, but it was estimated at 1 million Hungarian ethnics or Hungarian Romanians that live in Romania. I would assume that number probably recently it's lower. You also had a pretty rich population of Germans, and that was also in the Transylvania, in the northwestern part of Romania, Sibiu, and a lot of other groups of Germans that lived in Romania. So I would say those would be the largest minorities that Romania has, but then you have small pockets of a little bit of everything, I would say, a little bit of different influences. And but those two would be the largest minorities that live in Romania.
And how big of a land size is it? Can you give us a United States comparison?
Yeah, so I would say, I think, the best estimate that I can think of would be the size of Oregon.
Size of Oregon.
State of Oregon.
Okay.
There's 19.5 million people there.
Again, they are Romanian, but many of them are living abroad.
Interesting. And you're the only person I know from Transylvania. I know a few people from Pennsylvania.
Oh, right.
But you're the only person I know from Transylvania. Let's back up a little bit. I'm jumping ahead with the Romania. Camp K, you are the executive director and president of Camp K. What is Camp K?
So, Camp K is what people know us by. The generic, the big name is the Kostopoulos Dream Foundation, home of Camp Kostopoulos, as we have a beautiful property in the Immigration Canyon that you and I got to tour last Friday. Our story is very unique. When you ask me what is Camp K, I can give you about 100 different answers. But if we want to talk a little bit about the history of Camp Kostopoulos and why we're named Kostopoulos, Camp Kostopoulos or Kostopoulos Dream Foundation, is because in 1929 there was a Greek immigrant that immigrated here in Utah by the name of Dan Kostopoulos. And he, just like most immigrants, you come to this country with $100 in your pocket or less, and he did really well for himself. He never had any children. He worked for the Broadway Theater, prominent theater on Broadway on 3rd South, and
Sure.
He became the owner of the theater eventually, and somehow children in wheelchair or children from schools that had disabilities would attend his movie theater, and that gave him an opportunity to get to meet people with disabilities, in our community in the 50s. In the 50s, the opportunities for people with disabilities, you didn't even have the ADA, American with Disabilities Act. There's so many things, back in the days. They did not have
proper
any opportunities.
diagnosis on mental disabilities at that time too, right?
Absolutely, that's a major problem and concern. Not enough support for him, period. But so he was just a different person. I was reading some articles that so he immigrated here in 1929. By 1943, just 14 years later, he was already helping 900 children with Subford Santa and the primary children. So a generous person. And then he made it his mission to find a place and dedicate a place for people with disabilities to be social, to enjoy the outdoors, and enjoy the same things that we so freely do without restriction. So that was the idea of Camp Kostopoulos.
A real pioneer, truly.
A real pioneer. I mean, if we think about it, it's probably one of the earliest institutions that were probably established around the world privately, not by a government institution, to help people with disabilities. The unfortunate situation is that he passed away in 1965, so he didn't really get to see much.
How old was he?
Well, I know his wife Helene Kostopoulos was much younger than he was, and I can't tell you how old he was when he passed away, but I think he was, obviously older than she was, and she was still around, and she pushed to see Camp K happen, as became a dream for the family. In 1967, the board, they decided to name it because it was under a different name, a different umbrella when it was established in the 50s, and then in 1967, it became Camp Kostopoulos. So that's kind of how it happened.
Kostopoulos.
So 1967,
That was the year I was born.
we've been around for more than 50 years now, just over, and it's very humble beginnings. It's not like support for people with disabilities has increased a whole lot today, but back then was even more scattered, even less of what we have today. So you can imagine that probably the first 20 years of Camp K, 15, 20 years of Camp K, very slow. They dug a fish pond and developed a lawn area, and then late in the 70s,
And was
they
it
started building
was it a summer
lodge.
camp?
It was a summer camp. That's all it was in the beginning, and children, with disabilities were driven in personal cars by parents or individuals. Somebody would cook all night in somebody's kitchen and bring the food over, and once a week they were sleeping on the lawn under the sun, under the stars, gazing at the sky, and that was the camp experience, in the 60s and the 70s. Then,
little primitive.
Yes. Late in the 70s and or in the 80s, then there was a lodge that was added to it. And then, I would say in the last 15 years, the last 10 years, we had spectacular growth. But in the last 15 years is when, Camp K really developed into what it is today.
And when we come back after the break, we're going to hear what Camp K is today. Talk with Ted. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Talk with Ted, a show about nothing. We are talking about Romanian history, but just before we went off there, Mircea was telling us about the foundings of Camp K up Immigration Canyon and what it is today. So what is it today?
So
and then we'll back up and you can tell me what you do there.
So I would say today is a very unique ecosystem, a campus to empower people of all abilities, everyone that is part of our ecosystem. It's really an experience. It's an experiential learning. It's an opportunity for people to step outside their comfort zones, try new things, overcome fear, and I'll explain that, to achieve success. It's a place to teach life skills, opportunities for people to become independent, and then obviously that's all wrapped around vocational rehabilitation programs and work experience programs for people with disabilities. And people with disabilities, they have a tremendous purpose in life, and for people that have worked with them before, they understand what that purpose is to teach us empathy. I think people with disabilities have this tremendous gift that they teach us empathy in ways that nobody else can, because they have no mask. They are who they are, is what you see, what you get. They speak how they feel. They will always be honest and truthful. And, they never complain. Somebody that has a challenge and they carry their challenge in such a beautiful way. And, they have this opportunity to teach us so many things about life. And when you look at, somebody that has a disability and how they carry on through life, with the enthusiasm that they have, and for the stories of success that they come out of Camp K, that's a lot of opportunities for our staff, or our volunteers, for people that are part of Camp K that work really hard. It's a very intense work, long hours, dedication. Because Camp K is being so unique, where you work with children, teenagers, adults. With cognitive...
It's not limited to kids.
No, cognitive or physical disabilities. So very different. You work this week with a certain individual that has a certain challenge, and just
Some
when you
in
feel like you
wheelchairs.
master that, then here comes next week, and then there is a whole new person with a whole new challenge they have to learn about and get inspired with. So it's really a tremendous ecosystem where people that come into our environment, that they work for us, they are also put on a path to success. It's not just a job, it's an experience. They grow.
The counselors.
They grow, they learn, and then they become literally responsible adults into their communities, wherever they come from, and they go and make a difference, and they do something. They might find a passion at Camp Costopolis. A lot of our counselors are in their 20s, so you probably are just trying to find a path, to find a passion for something in life, and then they come into Camp K, just like I did, 20 plus years ago, and gives you the opportunity to look at life differently, gives you the opportunity to see life through somebody else's lenses, to see life through somebody else's point of view. And that's the experience you take from Camp K. So not only that, we give opportunities for people with disabilities that we serve at Camp K, bring them hope and love and excitement and fun and opportunities to learn skills, but also the people that work for Camp K. We hear lots of amazing stories, from them, how Camp K changed their life, changed their perspective. I feel like they can accomplish anything and so on and so forth. But also many of them keep coming back to us and make a difference here in this community. We hire people from all over the country and all over the world. This year a little less, but last year we had people from 23 different U.S. states and 24 different countries. This year we're just over 10 different countries and about 10 different states. And that diversity that comes into Camp K gives them the opportunity to see people just like that, just as another human being. And they try to learn from them, and they understand really quickly that everybody's looking at something, and they probably see something else. So it gives you very rich perspective on life, on people. It's kind of like a fast course. It's like an opportunity to learn really quick at a young age about hard work, about ethics, about integrity, about grit, determination. It is intensive. We have our campers on property on our campus engage with us from Monday all the way through Friday. So that's a 5-day camp, 100 hours of service. So our staff have to work with our participants and give them the opportunity to take advantage of that experience as much as possible. So both our participants and our staff have the opportunity to bring a lot of joy and hope and love and experience into their lives, into each other's lives.
It's amazing you talk about the value of the camp to the staff. I've heard you say that a couple of times now. I get the feeling that it's as valuable to the staff as it is to the participants.
It is a very, very strong experience, and that's what Camp K really is all about. It's not just a job. If people, take or want to come and work for Camp K just because they want a summer job or they want a job, then they're going to fail, and they're going to fail miserably. If you look at Camp K as an experience, as an opportunity to grow as a human being, then you're going to be tremendously successful. That's why, after recruiting and interviewing and recruiting and hiring, thousands of people in the last 20 years.
You do all the interviewing, right?
We do. I do most of the interviews.
Did you tell me 500 people for the 100 positions?
We interviewed about 500 people this year, and we hired about 100 of them. And after you make all those interviews, you realize really quick that here's our take, is skill can be taught, personality, cannot be changed. So we're hiring people for personality, not for skill. We don't measure people by the size of their resume. We measure people by the size of their heart. We want to make sure that when you come into Camp K, that you're willing to be a giver, you're willing to be somebody that forgets about self, and it's all about we, it's all about the team, it's all about Camp K, it's all about somebody else. And that's what Camp K is all about. That's why people are successful. And we do really well. Every year seems like I fine-tune, this sixth sense of deciding what is the best candidate for Camp K. Is this person going to be successful with us or not? And typically, we're looking for people that are selfless, people that are givers, people that do passionately want to make a difference in their life. And those individuals that come into Camp K have a very, very rich experience and helps them change their life in the process. And how do we do those things? I mean, you've seen our facilities, obviously beautiful facilities that were dedicated to us in the 50s.
We'll get back to that a little bit.
And now they develop into something very beautiful. But you have ropes courses, you have climbing walls, you have indoor equestrian centers. So lots of opportunities for people to try things that they never tried before. And it's called neuroplasticity. It's called,
neuroplasticity?
Yes, and I'll explain that in a second. So if in the 19th century we needed, IQ, you needed your left side of the brain, you needed math and those skills, problem solving, logic to be successful. In the 20th century, all of a sudden, we needed creativity. We needed the right side of the brain. We needed people to be creative and, have the other skills brought to place to be creative, to be successful. So in the 21st century, you really need both. You need the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain to come together.
The music and the science,
and
the music
logic.
and the math.
Yeah, you need both in order to be successful in today's world. So neuroplasticity is developing, how do we grow our brains so they can see different things? So I'll give you an example. You got a beautiful forest that already has different trails where people walked on, right? So picture your brain just like a forest where different paths that you experience, different experiences in life, different paths have been already created.
Mine are pretty well worn, some of them.
But neuroplasticity gives you
I got to find a shortcut.
That's right. Neuroplasticity means that, you continually have the opportunity to take your brain, to take yourself on new experiences. And then when you walk a new path, when you create a new path in the forest on your brain, then all of a sudden there's something new on your brain, and another light that goes on, another, neuron that, understands a new experience. So stepping outside your comfort zone is it's at the core importance of Camp K. Trying new things.
You said, the one emotion that you've highlighted earlier was fear.
Yes.
And I think that we live in a scary world. And I'm a relatively educated man on any given day. But it's a tough world that we live in, a dog-eat-dog world, a competitive world. Despite the fact that there seems to be an abundance of resources, there's difficulty in allocating those resources. And in our capitalist system, having to be able to provide for yourself. And I've got to imagine that people with disabilities, that this world is even scarier.
Everything you just said right now, it's kind of like at the core of Camp K, my core, and fear holds us back. Fear is very powerful, and I would say we learn at Camp K there are two kinds of fear. There's the fear of the unknown, and then the fear of the known. So the fear of the unknown is if you haven't done something before, then fear will come into place to hold you back because you haven't tried it. You don't know what the outcome might be. So you're afraid. You don't know. If I do this, what's going to happen? And the fear of the known.
If I fail.
Yes. And the fear of the known is, well, you probably have done it before, or somebody else has done it before, and the outcome wasn't that great, so you're afraid to try it because you already might fear what might happen in that case. So those are the two fears that we have, and we see very clearly at Camp K. And when I say that, I say it because, disability can be of two kinds. You can be born with a disability, or you can acquire a disability.
Right.
We can have an accident
And you
at
could have
any
more
time.
than one, too.
And unfortunately, you can be disabled or become disabled for the rest of your life. And this has happened over and over again, and will happen again. And we have people at Camp Costopoulos that have acquired brain injuries and different things due to an accident, where somebody went skiing or a car accident, and et cetera. So those are the two types of disabilities that we have, and fear plays into everything. And obviously, what we're trying to accomplish at Camp K is give people the opportunity to conquer fear and achieve success beyond fear. And you do those things by, understanding that we all react and we all learn differently. There's just no cookie cutters. There's individualized plan for every person. Every person has certain abilities that we can grow with, versus certain weaknesses that doesn't matter how hard you try, maybe they don't grow as, you can't change them. So we focus on abilities, we focus on what people can, and then we take it step by step. And a beautiful thing happens in your brain when you succeed, when you try something that you thought you'll never be able to do, and now you succeed. And then that success can be extremely powerful for an individual that is just the facilitator of that success. So what I'm trying to say, we can come back to this if we need to take a break, but I really want to finish when we get back what I want to say with the story.
On the fear.
Yes.
We've got the national news break. We'll be back in 6-7 minutes. Talk with Ted. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Talk with Ted, a show about nothing, number 33. We're talking about Camp K here in Salt Lake City. But coming up, I've got a few good guests coming up. On Thursday, I've got Robert W. Turner, author of Not for Long in the NFL. I've got a soft commitment from Terry Fossum, who is a television personality and a leader of the Boy Scouts of America. He was also a commander of some B-52 nuclear bombers, so a military guy. Is going to come on. I've also got a soft commitment from some folks here in Utah will recognize this name. I don't know if I can pronounce it correctly. But Tayu Pupawa. I'm sure I tacked that up. He played football at Weber State and did a bit in the NFL, and he's now a world-renowned opera singer. And we're going to have him on and talk to him about life after the NFL and a singing career. And so it should be some good shows coming up. But today we've got, and I struggle with your last name, Mircea Divicean. Easier than I thought. And for those just joining, he is the president and CEO of Camp K. And I'm going to read just 2 paragraphs from the president's message, your message, in a Camp K booklet that I've got. When I think of Camp K and try to explain it to others, I think of what we are and what we stand for. We are an ecosystem built to overcome fear. Fear is a powerful emotion which holds us back. We cannot control something that scares us, as fear will always get in the way. The most important question is, why are we so afraid of who we are? There are 2 fears, the fear of the unknown and the fear of the known. The fear of the unknown manifests as the fear of doing something because it is new, we haven't done it before. And the fear of the known manifests as the emotion that holds us back because we know what might happen if we do it. We overcome fear at Camp K by creating an environment where people have the opportunity to consistently challenge themselves outside their comfort zones, to try and to learn new things and ultimately to grow. In the process, they will overcome fear and become successful beyond fear. Nobody thrives in fear. Fear is dark, and when darkness sets in, hope disappears. When hope is lost, all is lost. Please remember that there's always going to be bad stuff out there, but here's the amazing thing. Light trumps darkness every time. You stick a candle into the dark, but you can't stick dark into the candle.
That's awesome.
I like that.
That's awesome.
So that'll kind of sum up for the folks that are just joining us. And I've had on the show before, we had an extreme skier, Kristen Ulmer from Salt Lake City, and she's written a book called The Art of Fear. So you're not the first fear specialist to come on, but you are so far as in dealing with people with disabilities.
So, first of all, we really appreciate every opportunity we have to talk about Camp K, talk about the work we do, and so I didn't really have a chance to say thank you yet for having me on your show.
My
really
pleasure.
Means a lot for us.
I tell my daughter I look for good people that do good things, so you seem to fit the bill.
All right, thank you. That means a lot. So we talked before we went into the break about the impact that people can have on each other. And how does that play at Camp K? So if you are, for example, I'll give you an example, Ben. He's been coming into Camp K since he was 10 years old. He is one of our ambassadors, and he's in that book. If you look back a little bit, he was born with spina bifida, paraplegic, and then recently he also had a kidney transplant.
Ben, I see him here.
And at age 10, when he came to Camp K, we have this 60-foot high ropes course, very intimidating. He wanted to, through his, will, to eventually conquer and go all the way up on the first platform just by using his only, the strength of his upper body. It took him 3 years to conquer the first platform, and then another 3 years every year coming to Camp K, trying it, and then eventually he made it. And then he started conquering elements, literally just using upper body strength. So when that happens, when a person that has a certain disability does something so strong and amazing and powerful, it impacts our staff. Like, I get letter. The first time he conquered that platform, I got a letter from my staff, a long email where she said, when I came into Camp K, I just wasn't sure if I want to continue into my field of choice, which was recreational therapy and work with people with disabilities. I just wanted to try and see if this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Now, you got to remember, if somebody paid money to go to school, now they're graduating and working for me, and they weren't sure if this is what they want to do for the rest of their life. So then that moment, that experience when Ben, after so many years, try and conquer the first platform, that changed her life and absolutely told her, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. So that's how people with disabilities have the opportunity to impact us, that we don't have that challenge. We can't even understand what life would be for us to live with that challenge. We can't. I can't. And yet they accomplish things that, maybe sometimes it's hard for us. So when you see that gives our staff, the people that come and work for us, a different perspective about life, about how, to carry on through life and what you can and cannot accomplish. So that's just an example. There's many more examples. I'll give you quickly another example of grit, of perseverance for somebody with a disability. There's a disability called a syndrome called neurofibromatosis. This you're born with it. There's a missing chromosome that you don't have that tells body cells to stop growing. So throughout life, they can grow all sorts of tumors inside or outside their bodies, and they go through many surgeries throughout life. Their lifespan is also shortened, and there's NF1 and NF2. So I have this friend of mine, Julian. He's a participant into Camp K for over a decade now. But when he came to Camp K the first time, I couldn't tell he has a disability. Very happy camper, energetic. We hit it off really quick. We made friends. Went up on the ropes course, no problem, and so on and so forth. But then as the time went on, he developed different tumors. But one of them was growing into his heel on the right foot, and that tumor kept growing and growing, and eventually I saw him wearing braces at Camp K, and then when he was 16 he came into a wheelchair off the plane. He's from Toronto, Canada. He came off the plane in a wheelchair, and that was sad. So he also came with his mom that summer, I remember it, and then at the end, she just went and toured Utah, experienced Utah. And at the end of the week, she came to pick him up, and she broke down crying in my office, give me a hug, and thank me for everything we've done for Julian, because now this is going to be last time he's coming to Camp K. And, while he's 16, he can keep coming. Why is he not coming back? So she said, his tumor in his heel has grown so much that it's hurting him to the point where they need to amputate his leg. And there's a scheduled surgery after he goes home to Canada, and they're going to amputate his leg. Now, this is a 16-year-old teenager that, now you got to lose your leg. So I was hopeful.
Like you said, it's impossible to put yourself in that situation.
It's so hard to even comprehend what that happened. You're 16, your whole life ahead of you. So, so I was hopeful that he'll come back to Camp K eventually. I said, it's not a problem. Hopefully everything goes good and he comes back. He didn't come the following summer, but then 2 summers later, he came back to Camp K. His grit and determination was amazing, and he has this backpack that he carries on with him, and he's got 2 different limbs, prosthetic limbs, one for walking and one for impact. So if he's going up on the ropes course, he just sits down, changes the leg, and goes up. And now he's 18 years old. So that determination to tackle life and that grit gives the people that work at Camp K a whole new perspective about life, about people, about grit, perseverance, and it did the same for me. So that's what Camp K is, and that's what we do. We really change the paradigm. We change people's lives through the programs that we have, the facilities that we have, the staff that we have. And it's a beautiful environment. We're located in Immigration Canyon, and we're very inclusive. We also started serving recently children without disabilities into our day camps for the last 3 years now, and it's growing. Because
you said children without disabilities?
Without disabilities. Because we realize, if you're an adult and you never interacted or been around people with disabilities, it's already too late, because it's going to be very hard for you to open up. You might be awkward around them. You might not understand them. It's going to be, challenging. You don't want to offend them. You don't know how to communicate properly with them, and so on and so forth. So we decided that we want to bring children at a young age into Camp K, give them the opportunity to socialize, to play, to be around people with disabilities, and then grow up looking at them no different, just
That's awesome.
Another person. So very inclusive program. Our website, campk.org, for anybody who's interested into being a part of Camp K. We got a camp for you, and it really is.
Still some availability this summer?
We have a few slots left open, not as many as we had, a little while ago, but there's still a few weeks here and there that have some openings. So if anybody's still interested, and this is the first time you hear about Camp K, I would challenge you to go check it out. It's a beautiful ecosystem, really built, to help people overcome challenges and overcome fear and achieve success in life and independence.
Amazing. And when you talk about independence, I think back again to the fear. It's a tough life out there, and to be a young kid with a disability and, looking down that road, especially this day and age, there's so much negative news that the kids are bombarded with about the global warming or nuclear destruction. There's just a lot of negativity, and I think that it's great that the kids have a place where there is some positivity, even with their limitations, I'll call it.
Well, fear is, a lot of our leaders use fear to their own advantage. It's easier to lead with fear versus leading with inspiration. I certainly, believe that the right leadership is through inspiration, to inspire people to be the best selves that they can be, and I think that's how leadership should be. Not the other way around, and I'm not going to go into examples, but there's many examples to the opposite.
Let me back you up a little bit, and then maybe we can get back to some examples. It's a foundation, the Kostopoulos Foundation. So is it a nonprofit foundation?
So this is where Camp K becomes even more complicated, right?
It's a little pseudo business, right?
We are, yes, absolutely. So we run Camp Kostopoulos as a business to make sure that we provide the best possible care and experiences for the people we serve. Obviously, when I say we run it as a business, it means that all the agencies we work with and all the oversight that we get, they don't look at you as a charity, they look at you as a business, meaning that you got to have all the certifications you need, all the trainings you need, everything that just like any other business does. However, we are...
You got the infirmary up there, right?
Yes, yeah, we got nurses, we got everything. We got lifeguards and, lots of trainings and certifications that go into one person that works with our individuals at Camp Costopoulos. Very complicated, but where things get even more complicated is, if you are a business, typically you charge what your cost is plus a profit, right? You charge a little bit extra so you can turn in a profit. So people with disabilities, there are over 1 billion people in the world that live with some form of a disability, 56 million in our country. That's about 20% of our population. There are people don't know, but it's the number one cause for poverty in the world. Disability is the number one cause for poverty in the world, and homelessness, and that's the true fact. And that's because they don't have access to jobs, they don't have resources. Employment rates for the state of Utah are at 14% for people with disabilities. 86% of people with disabilities do not have a job in the state of Utah. So because of that, we have to work extremely hard with our nonprofit arm to raise as much resources as possible to provide scholarships and make this programs affordable and available for people that don't have resources to pay for it.
What does it cost annually to operate the camp?
So we have big facilities, over $5 billion in assets. So it takes us, if we would be a for-profit business and we wouldn't stretch the dollars and the money and the resources as much as we do, we would probably be about a $10 million business in revenue. Because we do work very diligently, and you got to remember, with 30 acres of property, as you've seen them, we have one maintenance person, so everything else gets done with volunteer projects and service projects, which save us a tremendous amount of resources, and managing those projects isn't easy always. We need to raise about $3 million every year to make Camp K happen.
$3 million a year. And who are some of your best contributors?
Well, certainly, we're very grateful to the large foundations in Utah that are supporters for many years now. But we try to find new supporters all the time. We work with corporations and companies, and we have different programs and fundraising opportunities that they can get involved with us. And anybody that, and quite a few people, individual donors, and they're coming and supporting Camp K. And the most important part for us is, is to continually, push the paradigm, to change the paradigm, to push the envelope and push our mission of diversity and inclusion forward and help people see things differently in the process. And anybody that wants to be part of Camp K, certainly there's ways to get involved with us. For example, today I got a call from Chevron. There's a mom that works for Chevron that has a child with a disability, and it's looking very promising that they want to get involved with us into the future. We work with anybody that wants to work with us. We're very open to create an opportunity and build meaningful partnerships.
What percentage of the people that come to the camp need some type of scholarship?
That is a very good question. So if we look at the percentage, let's look at it differently. If we look at the percentage of people that pay into Camp K, it's about 14%.
14.
Yes, 14. 86% of them don't. So there's either a foundation that pays for it, or scholarshiping, or we're scholarshiping through the fundraising opportunities that we create, or we also have some contracts with the state of Utah, and then some of the services are being reimbursed for the people that we serve. So only about 14% of the people coming to Camp K pay for their services.
And I'm sure that there's travel costs associated too, just to get to Camp K, because you serve people not just from the state of Utah, right?
Yes, and absolutely right. And that's when, we want to build meaningful partnerships with different entities, and they help subsidize as well and cover some of the cost and so on and so forth. the majority of the people we serve are still from the state of Utah, but we do serve people from all over the country and all over the world.
How many people are you serving this summer, roughly?
So last summer was over 1,500, and this summer is not going to be any different. So we're expecting about the same. And then on a yearly basis, we have about 3,500 people that we serve at KMK.
3,500. And you've got an equestrian center out there.
We have an equestrian center.
Nothing like horses.
Beautiful.
For a camp experience.
One of the most beautiful, probably, centers in the world. Got to remember Immigration Canyon. We're at 5,800 feet elevation. Beautiful surroundings. We had to carve the mountain up there with the equestrian and have amazing horses. And what do you learn through interacting with a beautiful beast, those beautiful horses we have at Camp K is, and this is a big animal that has, doesn't need to trust you, doesn't need to interact with you. You got to build that trust and interaction with them, and it gives you an opportunity to humble out. Makes you a little humble to interact with the animal and build that trust with that animal, as our horses at Camp K.
I saw that facility. I saw the ropes courses, the various. You had the platform where you're telling me the kids have to balance the platform and work together, and it really is a great place. You've also got some concerts this summer. We
have concerts at Camp Costopolis this summer, so as I go into the community, I hear from many people, as Immigration Canyon is a famous, biking canyon. Everybody bikes Immigration Canyon.
I thought you were going to say the famous Pioneer Canyon. It's
well,
where
it is too, but everybody tells me, I know where you are. I bike past Camp K all the time. But then when I ask them, have you ever been at Camp K? The answer is 90% of times no.
Yeah.
So for whatever reason, people still think that Camp K is off limits. It's not. If I don't have children with disabilities, it's not for me. So we're trying to invite people into Camp K. So that's what we're doing. This concert series this summer. Got 5 concerts. We had one, and we have one this Saturday, and then 3 more to come. And we're pretty excited
How do we get tickets?
To bring the community into Camp K. So the easiest way to get tickets is just campk.org/live. Or you can just go to our website, campk.org, and then that's where you can purchase tickets and, support Camp K that way. And come into our environment, come into our home and get to know us.
It's a beautiful home, a beautiful environment. And this Saturday, you've got Ryan Shoup and the Rubber Band.
Ryan Shoup and Beckham.
Saw a picture of them, a bunch of young kids.
That's right. And it's just a great opportunity to have him with us. And Ryan Shoup hasn't really been at Camp K before to perform a concert, and he's pretty popular in the state of Utah, so it should be a phenomenal evening, and really excited for it.
That's great. And then on July 6th, you've got Carver Lewis and the School of Rock from Sandy, Utah, so some more local musical kids. Are there musical programs at Camp K?
So certainly there's 2 things at Camp K, so very good question. Number one, we talk about learning life skills and skills for independence, but then extremely important for us at Camp K is learning self-expression. So music, drama, arts and crafts, all those things are very important for us because people need to learn how to express themselves. So, yes.
That's awesome. Do you play an instrument? Not practicing what you preach here. It's not too late.
Not too late.
It's never too late. I've got a great story. I had a friend that was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer, and he had a year to live. And he called me. I was 46 years old at the time. He called me on a Friday and said, "Hey, Ted, I bought a guitar. I'm going to learn how to play the guitar." He died 53 weeks later. That day, I went out and bought a guitar. And I've been plucking at it ever since, but I've learned how to play a bit. It's never too late. Even at 46, I was able to pick up the guitar and play, and it's a wonderful thing being able to play an instrument.
I always wanted to play the guitar. I just need to start, making some time. Maybe I do it at Camp K with our campers next time.
You got the piano right outside your office. What about the piano?
Yes, we have a piano there too, and some of our campers, they play beautifully. One of our ambassadors, Greg, he plays the piano, and he does a tremendous job at it too.
So let's back up and talk about you for a minute. You were born in Romania?
I was born in Romania, and I came here. I was 12 when communism, fell in Romania, and I came here when I was, I think, 18 years old, and I landed in Utah, and I came here.
How old are you?
I am 40 years old right now, and came here. Came here for literally just to experience a new culture and get some education, and I was eminent that I'm going to go back and then apply and make my country better.
Did your family move here, or
No, it's
just you?
just me. I'm a little bit of a pioneer, like all those that came into the state of Utah 150 years ago. Opening new roads for individuals and opportunities. So
And what drew you to Utah?
it wasn't really anything. Just enrolled into a program that eventually brought me into Utah, and I landed here, and it was a different world, but very
So we're
similar.
talking 1997 or so?
1998. So
98.
very different than similar and different. So people here in Utah, they were very similar to what we have back home in Transylvania. Romania is a little different, just like U.S. is. Different parts of the country, different traditions and cultures, and
Sure.
But Utah had tremendous people and big hearts, and I-15 was 2 lanes back then, and they were trying to
It's before the Olympics.
very different. Utah back in the day is very different than what it is today, but very similar to my hometown, Cluj-Napoca. You got a valley and kind of mountains around it, and it just felt like home, but it also felt like I have the opportunity to learn from the best and, the people that around the world, and try to figure out how I can learn as much as I possibly can and improve myself as a human being and make a difference in life. And I was just a young guy. Then I ended up, that summer in 1998, I was a counselor. I ended up being a counselor at Camp Christopolis, and at 18 was the first time when, I really interacted with people with disabilities. And although, I knew it's a challenge for me and I was gladly to take it, it definitely felt the same way that it probably feels for my staff when they never really experienced people with disabilities before, and now they work with them. And I know that you can conquer that fear, and the outcome is tremendous. So,
But now you told me you wanted to be a banker.
So I was going to college to become a banker. So that
Now,
was
this is like Seinfeld episode.
That's
now.
right.
There's an episode where Kramer wanted to be a banker.
that's
and got
right.
a speeding ticket.
So I wanted to
So
college.
what happened to the banking career?
I was really good at it. I'm very good at math, very good at economics, very good at accounting. I just, probably, that's why we're doing such a good job at Camp K. All those skills come in place very handy when
You're a banker of a different sort.
you're running an entity with so many complexities that come into play. So very good at math, very good at numbers and economics and accounting and all those things, and I want to be a banker. And to top it all off, at that time, not ever knowing that I would ever end up becoming an American and live in this country and embrace it so much for what it stands for. I in high school, I always wanted to not just be a banker, but also become the finance minister of Romania.
The finance minister of Romania.
So
You
that
had
was-
some modest goals.
That's right. That's right. That's what I wanted to do, and that's what I wanted to be. And I feel like from where I am right now, I am able to. I've done a whole lot more than that, and touch many more people's lives and accomplish amazing things in the process.
Well, I got to tell you, you were escorting me around last Friday in the golf cart, driving me and my daughter around, and I felt like a little bit of a rock star because all the counselors were there. I don't think camp was in session; it was out, but I could tell that you were highly regarded. But that's quite a story, from counselor to CEO. Take us through that a session, if you will. How did you rise up
counselor to CEO? That's you gotta. What is the American dream anymore? What is America anymore when we have so many differences coming into play in today's world and so many opinions, and immigration is at a forefront. It's a hot topic these days.
Even now, when there's more job openings than there are
It's
people
a very
available for
hot
the jobs.
topic because because of globalization. You got to look at it not just from the perspective of our country, but the perspective of the world right now. There's a lot of, there's just a lot happening and a lot of movement of people. Some people integrate and embrace, and some people never do. When you don't, that's when a lot of tragedies happen. But when people integrate, lots of beautiful things happen. And I integrated.
So
and
how did you
embraced the
integrate?
culture.
How did you integrate? So counselor at 18, and then what was your next job there?
So then I was office manager at, I would say, maybe 21, 22, very young after graduating, And then
Where'd you graduate from?
I graduated from actually one of the most prominent schools in Europe. It's a university out of Romania, over 40,000 students. And back in the days, you got to remember coming off of the history of Romania, they did not have private universities. So everything was public and limited slots available for all the different, majors that universities or departments the university had. And this university in Transylvania that I attended, one of the most regarded in Europe and certainly one of the best in Romania, if not the best in certain majors or departments that they have. And the competition was fierce. There was 25, 30 people for one slot, and I got accepted, and I graduated out of that university, and it was banking and finance. That was my degree, and that's what I came out of. And being here in the United States, coming here through my college and being a part of it and being part of foreign exchange programs, it really gave me, and at Camp K, gave me the opportunity to see the world differently, and certainly gave me the opportunity to feel like, if you're strong enough, you can accomplish anything in life. And that's the sense that I got, and came back and ran the office at Camp Christopoulos. Then I became a finance director, and then I became the CFO, then the CFO and COO, and then president and CEO 6 years ago.
6 years. At 34 years old, you were the president and CEO?
34 years old, president and CEO. I was got a lot of different recognitions. I had the 40 under 40 through the Utah Business. I also recently got, last year actually, I got the CEO of the Year for the Utah Business.
Let's talk about, what was that? CEO of the Year for Utah Business?
Utah Business, yes. Utah Business Magazine. I got that recognition last year. So we've accomplished some great things in this community. But going back to how do you assimilate, or how does this culture assimilate you as an immigrant, and what is the American dream anymore? So for me, it was just like Dan Christopoulos, you come here with $100 in your pocket at age 18, and not my parents, I came alone. My parents didn't come here and benefited from having parents that, show you the way. I just kind of figured out my way. And the most important thing is just I want to learn about people. I'm a people's person. I want to learn about people, and everything. The more I learn about this community, the more I liked, and the more I was a part of it, and the more I was accepted, and vice versa. And it's just natural for me to, after being at Camp K, to serve, to help people. Although to your point, it is a dog-eat-dog world, and everybody's for themselves and very selfish. At Camp K, it's just not like that. At Camp K, we understand that, there's a balance in life, and there's a balance in the world, and somebody's got to do the good work, and that's why we're here for. And I feel very fortunate and humble for the opportunity.
Well, you're beyond fortunate. You're blessed because most people don't have the opportunity to have that much positivity come from their career or their job. You're really blessed at all levels with that, and I know that the community is better off for you. I've seen you around on television, in the newspaper, on the internet. It seems like you're Camp K 24/7. You are the face of Camp K.
So we we know a few things at Camp K, and one of them is it's very simple. You and I talked about this a little bit. There's different other minorities in the country, and they have a strong voice because they're organized, but people with disabilities don't. They don't. And you got 20% of this country's population, and then when you probably factor in their families, you get to probably 53% of our country is affected by disability. Yet sometimes I get from politicians, I'm not going to name anyone, do they vote?
I try not to name names on the show.
Do they vote? Are they a voting power? It's just kind of how it is. But they don't have a voice. So people with disabilities don't have a voice. So we believe at Camp K that it's our job to be their voice, to fight for them and give them an opportunity. And we feel like we want to come from a position of power. So the more we help our people with disabilities to be successful, the more Camp K is successful, the better off they'll feel, and the more confident they'll be in how they want to carry on and be a part of the community.
Sure, the volumes. And how do you define successful?
So success for me is, and you kind of touched on it when you talked about jobs, is are you happy with your job? Are you happy with your career? Are you happy with what you do on a day-to-day basis? Are you excited when you wake up in the morning to go and tackle and do something and create something? That to me is success. If you're waking up every morning excited and happy, and I know, it might sound cliche, Warren Buffett and many others said it.
Give us a cliche on the way into the commercial.
Many others say it, if you find what you love to do, then you're not going to work a day in your life. It is kind of like that, but a little different, because we feel like everybody's got a passion. Whether you want to, be a lawyer or a mathematician or an engineer or whatever that passion is, I think if you find that passion, and for me, the passion is, helping people. That's my passion.
You're very lucky. You're helping us right now, and we'll be right back for the final segment of Talk with Ted after this commercial break. Welcome back to Talk with Ted, show about nothing, number 33. Mircea, help me again.
Divicean.
I'll struggle with that one. CEO, Executive Director of Camp K. Time flies on this program. I could use you for a couple of hours, but we're getting through the camp, how the camp is funded, how it's operated, your role and rise to the top in the organization. And I believe it has been recognized by Goldman Sachs. 10,000 small businesses. What is that?
So Goldman Sachs, Lloyd Blankfein, and Warren Buffett, and Bloomberg, and all those folks, they came together. I think it started in probably, I would say, in 2013. That's when I think it started. Maybe I'm wrong, but I know for a fact, actually, that it is 2013. When it started in Utah, when it opened in Utah. So before that, they probably started it somewhere else in New York. So Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program, it's literally kind of like a mini MBA. It's a program designed to help entrepreneurs acquire certain skills so they can grow their business. And that was the idea, that they put $100 million into works. They went to Babson College, which is one of the best in the country on entrepreneurship. They came together with this very fast-paced, entrepreneurship program where they would train you from, financials and accounting to marketing to everything that, you need in order to put together a growth plan and grow your business and create jobs. So that was the idea of the program. And they just barely started the program here in Salt Lake. But all across the board in the country, they already had several thousand businesses that they went through, and this was designed for for-profit entities. And they were starting to think about, would a non-for-profit benefit? Would a CEO from a non-for-profit benefit from this program? would they be able to take some of the teachings and learnings and apply it into their business and grow their business? And so it happens, that I was the very first, the VP, the director of the program came to Utah to interview me. And this was all secretive. I had no idea, right? I'm just a guy, applies, you go to interview, and he comes to Utah, and there's like 4 or 5 people on the table interviewing me, asking me questions. And then I found out later on that he was the head honcho, the head guy that, came literally specifically to interview me because I was the first CEO that got tapped to be part of the program. Kind of like I was a research, object. They wanted to see a guinea pig. They wanted to see, is this going to go well with non-for-profits? And then if it's so, then we're going to bring others on board. So I was the very first that graduated. I got accepted and graduated through the program, and I found it to be very valuable for us, and it helped us. We grew 300% after the program, within 2 years. So we applied a lot of the principles that we learned in the program, and now I'm not just an alumni, but also an ambassador for the program, and I get invited quite often to go and speak in support. And I was talking to you recently that they did not have an advocacy module when I graduated through the program, where I went through the program, but now they realize that small businesses, they need to learn how to advocate, with their local state and federal politicians and government for their businesses. And I went in, I got invited to be on a panel, and was a phenomenal opportunity to give back and to support those that are trying to learn and grow their businesses and create jobs.
That's amazing. And I know that you're working the political connections because I've been to your office and I've seen the pictures on the wall. You and Senator Mitt Romney and Governor Herbert and others. But I take it you work with the government to try to get benefits for the camp?
We work with the government. We do apply advocacy in everything we do. Look, Camp Christopolis, as we are a service agency, service and our programs are all based on trust. Trust is the most important, the quintessential number one, I would say, most important thing for an entrepreneur, for a leader to build with everybody around them, should they even want to think of success. So for us, we got to build trust with our employees. We got to build trust with our participants and campers. We got to build trust with their families. Otherwise, why
donors?
Yeah, and donors, of course, and then the government and everybody else. But why would parents entrust you with their children if they don't trust you? So everything we do at Camp K is trust. So we got to be trustworthy. We got to have integrity. We got to always be on our best behavior and do the best we can. So, yes, I am fortunate enough to be in certain circles, and I met with the president of Romania and prime ministers of Romania, ambassadors in my position.
You've got quite a circle.
As the honorary consul of Romania here in the United States.
And what exactly is that?
So that is it's kind of like an ambassadorship role at a state level. A regional level, so to speak, as I have several states under my jurisdiction. So you have, an ambassador in D.C., and then you have consuls around the country, and I represent U.S. in Romania and Romania in U.S. So it's just an honorary position.
Give me an example of what type of work you do there.
So, for example, we try to bring awareness here locally about Romania, and then we try to bring awareness in Romania about U.S. We try to do trade missions, as many as we possibly can, to help economic opportunities. And I hosted a trade mission and planned a trade mission here where I had the ambassador and 20 businesses from Romania and ministers and some other diplomats come here. We met with the first presidency of the LDS Church. We met with President Nelson and everybody else. That was a very humbling experience. Of course, the governor and
so government, civic, religious organizations.
Absolutely. So the opportunity is really just to educate, strengthen, build collaboration partnerships, whether they're cultural, economic, or educational, between Romania and the state of Utah and the United States. And it really is an honor, to be able to do that and work through the State Department. And I look forward to building more opportunities and And I do also know, you and I talked a little bit, Eastern Europe has not been discovered yet by Utah, has not been discovered yet by U.S., and the opportunities between the two are tremendous, economically speaking, right now. And there's a lot of values. You can't build, it's very hard to build partnerships when the values are different. And certainly there's many countries in the world, including China right now, where it seems like, we have different values and different outcomes that we're both trying to achieve. So Romania and U.S. has a lot of the same values. And Utah and Romania have, family is very important for Romanians. Family is very important for Utahns.
Utah's a pretty special place, isn't it?
Very special, and I think the opportunities are tremendous. Yeah, and I firmly believe that there will be quite a few opportunities coming into the future. And I have a trade mission I'm working for to take business leaders from Utah to Romania in October this year, and then there's some other trips and opportunities that we're looking at. But ultimately, it's a diplomatic position, and gives me great joy and honor to be able to represent both U.S. and Romania in U.S.
You said Utah. You said a couple of other states as well. What are those?
All the neighboring states. There's no other honorary consul in Colorado, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana. So all the states where there is no consul, general consul, I have those states basically under my wing.
You've also got some FBI credentials.
So
can you still be trusted?
Yeah. So this is fun. This is really exciting. FBI certainly does a lot of great things in our community. We tend to not hear about the great work they do. We always hear about the bad things that they do. Typically
that's what makes the news, right?
Typically associated with politics.
Yep.
But they certainly do great things. They got 37,000 employees in our country, and they've been accepted through their FBI Academy for community leaders, and it was a tremendous experience. Was a very intensive training that we went through once a week, and we got trained on everything that the FBI does through their special agents. I was fortunate enough to learn about a lot of interesting things that we take for granted, and it is, to your point, it really is a very, very scary world out there.
Yeah. Well, and you talk about trust too, and when you talk about the police and the FBI and trust and that executive branch of the government, that's where we really need that good faith service, and where we need to be able to trust those people, enforcing the laws. Did they? Your banking background, did that come into play with the FBI?
Well, they really give. So basically, after graduating through this academy that I was a part of, now I'm an ambassador to the FBI. My role is to continually help strengthen, their collaboration with the community and educate the community on what the FBI does. And last week, I was fortunate enough to go for a trip and a training opportunity at the headquarters in D.C., and then we spent a day at Quantico, and we saw firsthand, training, how it happens in Quantico. And then we had some of their top professors talk to us and speak to us about leadership and how they train, the future special agents. And I can tell you that there's a lot of passion, and they're mission driven. A lot in common between FBI and CAMK. We're mission driven. We cannot, unless I find passionate people that want to make a difference in the world, CAMK doesn't exist. And then the FBI is very much the same,
Same thing.
And they were talking, there's a lot, as they were talking about their elite, force, which are the people that go and rescue and do all sorts of, Hollywood-like opportunities. They after they do their massive recruitment, they bring into training 50 individuals, and they only have 5 potentially graduating that become part of that, special
The
unit.
elite team.
And it's some of the things that they disqualify him for, or they say you're not a good fit, is okay, here's a break, and you go and instead of asking somebody, hey, I'm going to go get some water, you want some water? Instead of asking, you just get water for yourself first. You're not a good fit, so they fail them. So
Oh, really?
it's
That's subtle.
It's about the teamwork. It's about supporting each other. When things are tough, you need to be able to rely on somebody else, and that's very similar to Camp K. Our staff don't get food for themselves first; they get it for our campers. So there's a lot in common. That's why I'm kind of passionate about the work they do, because it is mission driven. There are people that do want to make a difference and make the world better, and it is a scary world out there. So I'm very appreciative for this opportunity to be an FBI ambassador, and for also the opportunity of having been through their program and try to understand a little more what they stand for and how they do it.
Now, I think the world in general needs more Camp Ks.
Well,
how can
thank
we
you.
make Camp K contagious?
So I cannot, appreciate more what you just said right now. I think Camp K does create a better world around it. Camp K makes people better, gives people the opportunity to be better and proud. There is something that talks about the power of moments. There's those unique moments that we have in life that change our life. They jolt us, they elevate us. And those moments we never forget. We tend to forget everything else in between, but those moments we never forget. It's kind of like going to Disneyland. If you ask people at 10 a.m. and 12 and 1 and 2, how was your day from 1 to 10? They'll give you different scores, but then, they'll always give you a high rating right after they got off a roller coaster or a ride.
Yeah, after Space Mountain.
But then after a month, if you ask them, so how was Disneyland, they will give you a very high rating. We tend to remember the powerful moments and forget the rest.
Interesting.
So that's what Camp K is. Doesn't matter how hard a summer is. After you go home, you remember the powerful moments you had when you were successful at Camp K, and you forget the long hours and everything else. And that makes you a better person. So we need more Camp Ks in the world, and I'm hoping that I can inspire people to say, let's do it. Let's have another camp in Idaho, St. George, in Germany, in UK, anywhere and everywhere. So I'm still waiting for that one Dan Kostopoulos, that we had here in Utah 70 years ago that says, you know what? I do believe in everything that you guys do. Let's make it happen because I have the money to make it.
Well, we'll get this program up on the internet, circulate it. Maybe we'll find that person and we can
doubt.
franchise Camp K. Maybe Warren Buffett will have to do a new program for you in franchising your nonprofit foundation model. I want to thank you for coming on this afternoon. Your inspiration and a true gem here to the Salt Lake community. And we're sorry that Romania lost you, but Utah's better off for it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That means a lot, and I do. Regardless, certainly, the curse of an immigrant is that you belong to both two worlds, right? The one that you left and the one that adopted you. But certainly, I feel home here, and I'm just so humble and proud to be a part of this community.
Well, keep trying to make this one world a better world because you're definitely doing that.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming on. Thanks for listening, folks. I'll be back on Thursday with Robert W. Turner. Not for long. Life of an NFL athlete, and drive safe.